Appreciate y'all joining Rakeem and I for another episode of the Talented 10th podcast. Again, appreciate all the feedback, especially from fraternity brothers, as well as me and my dad had a very good conversation coming off of the chapter on appreciation. And so didn't know what that call was gonna be because we kind of got personal, but he really enjoyed it, and many of you did as well. This week is around self-reliance and self-identity as a chapter. Rakeem and I will talk through that. Also talk about the Olympics. You can see we're rocking our USA gear. I did throughout the entire Olympics. It was one of my favorite times. Wish it came more than every 4 years. And then there's just been a lot that's happened politically since we recorded our last episode. You know, we were getting ahead of things and recording things early and all of that. And so our last episode was right before the first presidential debate. Obviously, plenty has changed since then. And so probably instead of just kind of picking a specific topic, we'll just kind of talk through the state of the race almost. But before we jump in, as we always do, we have some Elijah Craig, because Rakeem finally remembered to bring alcohol.
Finally remember to bring some this time.
Was not convinced he wasn't doing that on purpose.
Bashing it, keeping it for myself.
If you want to talk through it, I know that's one of your favorites.
Yep, so got Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. This is batch B. So the award-winning batch is batch C, but this is better than batch A, which they only released 3 batches for the year. So Elijah Craig batch C was the award-winning bourbon of the year. And so we got batch B here, which is very good still. So yeah, it's aged for 11 years, 5 months. So let's crack it open and roll with it.
Okay. See, it didn't crack. You know, tempering the glass. Shout out to Doe, my barber, who had the episode playing and was happy to find out that little trick on the Big Rock too.
Telling you, hey, look,
that was one of my favorite people.
Didn't crack, look good, clear.
Shout out to Mariana.
Can't beat that. Can't beat that at all.
Okay, so
yeah, shout out to his
self-reliance
barber.
and self-identity. Like, how do you want to? Do you start it off like always? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, what does it mean? But
let me ask you:
Okay.
When you hear self-reliance and self-identity, what is that? Just as a character trait and as something that makes up a high quality person, what do you think? I typically start it off so you can
check.
Start it off.
So to me, it's like when I think of self-reliance, self-identity, it's like check yourself at the door first. To me, it's more so like anybody can call you out, but can you have a self-identity to, one, agree with somebody calling you out, but also can catch yourself and call yourself out first?
So you're talking about kind of like accountability?
Yeah. So be more accountable, but also accountable as in pushing yourself to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. Pushing yourself maybe to where if it's hitting the gym, work, friendships, relationships, or whatever, is, to me, it's just being accountable and holding yourself accountable first, mm-hmm. so that you can also be, what are you trying to set yourself for?
So, I think what you're doing right now is describing your identity more so than self-identity.
In a way, yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that's something I know you had a journey towards. So, for me, as I approach the episode, honestly, my first two episodes of this podcast were about kind of my 15-year-old self, the things that I wish I knew and the things that I'm glad I knew. And around that time, and I referenced this, but it's been years ago, so refresh. Around that time, there was a lot going on in my life, kind of that junior high-ish time frame, ninth grade particularly, and ninth and 10th grade particularly. And two teachers that are super important to me, and two of the best teachers I've ever had, including college, law school, graduate business school, is Debbie Morrison and Julie Facuri. So Debbie Morrison was my seventh grade. It was either sixth grade accelerated or seventh grade math teacher, eighth grade math teacher, ninth grade math teacher, 10th grade math teacher. She moved up with our class of advanced students every single year.
That's rare within itself.
It's very rare. We were very lucky to have that level of continuity in our learning as a AP group or an advanced group. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out how extremely hard it is to go from pre-algebra as a teacher and teach all the way up to pre-cal or algebra 2. So her teaching ability was second to none.
Okay.
It's mind blowing. I was also lucky enough that, and you know Sadler and have met Sadler, one of my best friends. I've known since I can remember, since a child. That was his mother. And
Okay.
so it was a cheat code. It was something that I've never been able to have, and most people aren't able to have. And then even if someone was willing to, the ability to teach that many subjects that many levels of math is rare. And then Julie Facuri is one of the best, if not the best. She and Carolyn Ripley were two of the best English teachers I think you could ever have. Why am I bringing them up as it relates to self-reliance and self-identity? So I was going through the process of defining myself during that 9th and 10th grade time. And one of the things that got me there was self-reliance. And I mean the essay by Ralph Waldo Emerson. So in that class, we really studied transcendentalism, which is kind of a philosophy or a way of thinking that traces back to Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson. And so Self-Reliance, the essay, is, to me, one of the greatest written works in American history. It is one of the most important written works of my life.
Okay.
And the lessons of transcendentalism, reading Thoreau, reading Walden, reading Self-Reliance, reading these works from writers who subscribe to transcendentalism was exactly what I needed at the exact time as I was shaping myself.
Okay.
And what I thought of myself. Oddly enough, I think it was the year before I was in Mr. Facuri's class and we were tackling transcendentalism. It happened to be the core subject for, I think, the valedictorians at Monticello School District the year before, of which I believe Catherine Morrison, now Catherine Reinhardt, who's a dentist up here in Fayetteville, who is the oldest child of Debbie Morrison, my math teacher. And
Okay.
so all of these things are happening at the same time. So my concept of self-reliance and then my ability to define my identity, my self-identity, really took root at that point, 15, 16 years old, because of Julie Facuri and because of the subjects that we discussed.
Do you think so? Do you think it's changed much, your self identity or reliance, from 15, 16 years ago to you
That's
now?
a good question. I don't think so. Like, no, it was so critical.
Critical.
Like, with the appreciation discussion, we talked about kind of that point in 98 when my parents split apart. There was a lot of that 8 to 10 range was not a good time for me. And then, I was just trying to define myself, and we had talked about it early on in this season with me and my brother about people starting to compare me to my brother and stuff like that. So it was critical for me to define myself so I can start going my own way. And without the lessons of self-reliance and that essay, I don't know that I would have been so confident in. It's one thing to go on the journey to kind of define who you are at your core. It's difficult when you're young and you don't know the world yet. But it's also difficult to remain resolute once you've kind of decided this is who I am. But there's a quote from Self-Reliance, and forgive me for reading to you, that when I hit it in the essay, I was like, okay, this shit's speaking to me today. Like, this is years and years and years old, but like, he's speaking to me.
Yep.
And there's a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better or for worse as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to him but through his toil bestowed on that plot of ground which is given to him to till. The power which resides in him is new in nature, and none but he knows what that is which he can do, nor does he know until he has tried. That was exactly what I needed to hear as I was being compared to my fantastic brother. But to kind of use the quote, I was given a different plot of land.
Correct.
And my talents and my who I am is the corn that I needed to plant on that ground. And like trying to imitate him or trying to be envious of his success, all these different things was gonna be figuratively suicidal. It was a fool's errand. And so the power which resides in me is new in nature. It's unique to me. When I was born, when I came into myself, the powers that I have are only mine.
Okay.
And the only way that I'm going to see it at its maximum potential is if I try to develop my talents and not chase and try and imitate someone else.
That's all I was just about to ask was, can you get self-identity or self-reliance through trying to be something or do something that ain't really you and either falling short of it or something to where you realize, like, this is not my path. I tried this path. Didn't work out for me like I thought it would for others or even family members. And you got to go through some growing pains or something to really get into who you actually are.
I honestly don't know that trying is a bad thing. Like, because I was still good at what
Right.
I did,
Correct.
but it didn't bring
Didn't
me
feel
the happiness that it brought someone. It wasn't my destiny.
okay.
And I'm interested to hear your take on. I think a lot of times you see it in sports at certain levels. Eventually, you gotta love the game. But some people can get away with just being good at something, but not really loving it.
Don't have a passion, but just know they
Yeah,
good.
and you can also love something that you're not great at.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I think oftentimes, especially when you're young, you stick to the things that you're better than other people at versus committing to the things that you enjoy.
Okay.
Because you might be better than people in junior high.
Yeah.
You might be better than them in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You might be better than them in college, whatever. But eventually in life, you can't sustain devoting that much energy to something you don't love.
Yes.
Or you don't love as much as you're acting like you love.
Yeah. Or as much as the competition that you may be going against.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. 100%. And it's hard. I mean, you can get to a point where either you especially if we're talking especially sports for young who do it for so long and just know they better, and so they keep doing it because they better, but then they get to a point where like, I don't know if I'm better or love it enough to want to do the extra to keep me being the best.
Mm-hmm.
So you like, okay,
Well, that means a person likes the results or the adoration that comes after you complete something.
correct,
But it doesn't mean they love the process.
yes,
Doesn't mean they're committed.
correct,
Doesn't mean they'll fight through ups and downs. And that's why that self-identity, like when you identify what inside yourself, not that has an infinite amount of energy, but basically is close to it. Like I don't run out of energy for this.
right. You wake up
Or
every morning excited for it.
exactly.
Something.
And that's critical because again, you may like something, but if you're not honest about why you like it, like do you like basketball, or do you like that because of what you do in basketball, you like what the resulting popularity or seemingly
Attention.
important and all of that. And then you go to a next level and that it's not there.
Yeah.
Or you're not as good at, you were better than people here, but you're only as good there.
Yeah.
Are you still motivated? And a lot of people aren't because they were never really committed to the game. They were committed to what the game gave them. And that's a part of that journey. And once you can do that, then you get into kind of that self-reliance, building that confidence in yourself, being willing to say, as long as I'm comfortable with it, I'm going to move forward.
Yes.
That's kind of that next level. And again, forgive me for reading, but the next quote was around exactly what I just described. Like, okay, you got talents. You got ground to till it. You need to put in the work to see it come to pass. That does not change the fact that there will still be people, as you've heard me say in these episodes, who are still trying to tell you what you should be doing. Like they know.
Yeah.
And so the quote goes, "What I must do is all that concerns me, not what the people think." This rule, which is equally arduous in actual and intellectual life, may serve for the whole distinction between greatness and meanness. It is the harder because you will always find those who think they know what is your duty better than you know it. It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. That I got it then, but I didn't. It was kind of a challenge.
Yeah.
because I would be in solitude. I just withdraw, and because I don't want to hear the noise. And that's okay. But it's not really greatness. It's safety.
Yeah.
The real greatness is when you can keep that independence even as the tug and pull of the crowd is amongst you. And that's when you show greatness. That's when you motivate others. That's when people respect you. They see that you remain who you are, but also am adaptable depending on where you are as well.
Yep, 100%.
What do you think about that?
I like that a lot. And like you just said, though, like, it's easy to just retract, be to yourself, or vice versa. Some people will go and surround themselves by more people that they don't actually really want to be around or something to show or whatever, instead of actually being like, no, this is who I am. This is what I do. These are the things I go do or how I am. Surround yourself with me if you like to, or I surround myself with you, but I don't need to portray as I'm one of them when I know deep down I'm really not.
And imagine that in junior high.
Right.
That's when that's like one of the first real tests of like, are you gonna be you or are you gonna be a chameleon?
Right. But I mean, even outside of junior high, you got it. I mean, we got people. There's grown people doing that now. Still.
Yeah, absolutely.
That ain't never figured it out or ain't never realized their self-reliance or self-identity. And I mean, you go through phases, and you even when you know your identity, you go through phases trying to realize if you got other identities or other.
Or how does it change, right?
Right.
You're not going to remain the same.
Exactly. And as you going through those changes or whatever, you still got that core that's in you. It's whether if you listen to it or not, but it's there for you to know, like, okay, this is me. It's really not me. What if it's you want to be around people, or if you want to just be to yourself, or whatever the case may be. But you know it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and so, do you think people? I guess I think you read it. I think it's easier to ignore it than to embrace it for some.
Yeah, it's always easy. What I would say, the reason why self-identity is up there, and I'm totally about self-reliance in that sense of, but I'll get into what I think the difference between self-reliance and independence is. But self-identity is important because you can't evolve if you haven't kind of identified who you are. Right? Evolution, even in a kind of a theoretical sense, is kind of that natural rising, the strengths naturally sorting themselves out from the weaknesses over time. Yeah. And when it comes to who you are, like, if you never identified who you are, you're more changing than evolving. Yeah. You're more adjusting to the environment around you than you are evolving the person you are. That you might have identified early, and then now as life happens, then you kind of evolve, and I don't want to say tweak, but you start to accentuate that person you identified yourself as being versus
you grow it,
like bouncing from ditch to ditch, because you don't really have a North Star that you hold on to. And so that just makes you very susceptible to stronger personalities, stronger environments, all those things, which in turn then can leave you lost. Yeah. It could really leave you lost. As it relates to self-reliance and the difference, I think, between self-reliance and independence. Independence kind of has this, and I know it's not always meant this way, but it has kind of this I only need myself
Yeah.
type of feel. Self-reliance for me means having that confidence and working to develop those skills and your natural abilities uh, so that you're not having to rely to your own detriment on other people. It's not to say that you want to go at it alone. It's just to say that what I need from a confidence, from a trust, from a belief in the tools that I have perspective, all I need, I have. And that's what I mean by self-reliance versus kind of independence. And that's what
Where I don't need nobody. I got it
right,
myself.
and that was what that quote was kind of getting at of like it's easy to isolate yourself, which is probably more of an independent approach.
Mindset. Yeah.
But self-reliance is when you're in the midst of others, you know that you have all you need. You don't need to be looking for other people to augment you where it's not necessary. And so the last quote that I touched on and want to read back is, forgive me again, insist on yourself, never imitate. Your own gift you can present every moment with the cumulative force of a whole life's cultivation. But of the adopted talent of another, you have only an extemporaneous half possession. That which can do best, none but his maker can teach him. In other words, imitation, you're only at best going to be half as good as the one you're imitating.
Correct.
But when you do it yourself, only God can speak to the talents in which he gave to you. And so it was just kind of one of those, the old saying of don't spit in the face of the Lord, use the talents he's given you. It's a very similar message of like, man, be confident. Be confident in yourself, and don't spend more time trying to impress upon others that you're neglecting the things that you need to identify in yourself and create a confidence that you can rely on. A lot of people spend more time on the outside stuff than the inside stuff.
Yep.
And then realize when it's too late, like, who am I? So
yeah, I mean, and I get people that's trying to, again, got a core, but trying to figure out more to that core of who they are as a whole, or as you grow. You're gonna hit phases in life where you grow, but it's still about whatever identity you set for yourself.
yeah,
And so
and some people call it, especially in I hate this term, but a brand. It's not a brand. Your identity needs to be just kind of like your ideals.
yes,
You self-identity is not, because a brand makes it seem like looking at all the positives that someone else thinks about yourself.
and then you're trying to keep that up,
Right.
because of what you're worried about other people think about it.
Exactly. So, and that's where I distinguish self-identity. That is with self.
Yeah.
Brand is very much about others' perception.
And if you care more about the brand or actually,
It's the tree or the shadow, right? Your self-identity is the tree. Your brand and reputation is the shadow. Like, don't get it twisted. The real thing is you. You can focus on the shadows, but at the end of the day, they're only there because of who you are. And so if you're focused more on the shadows than the real thing, then as we know, shadows gonna change throughout the day.
Throughout.
Even when the
Each
self
direction.
doesn't move.
Yep, even each direction.
Yep. As that sun moves, that shadow changes. And that's exactly how life is. You need to be the tree. You need to be the thing that doesn't change.
Yes.
It doesn't mean the things around you won't make shine a light on you in different ways throughout your life, and in this analogy throughout the day, but you didn't change.
Yeah. You stuck to your core. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too is again, you stick to that core of your identity, your reliance. I mean, you will see it. It's not an instant, oh, I need to see results tomorrow or something. You're gonna see over time as you went through the phase of life, or as you're still going through the phase of life. What if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, that the identity, which is the tree, you're going to see all the beautiful things that come with it, around it, light on it, you name it. And that's the thing. It's just understanding it and then seeing it.
And sticking with it.
Yeah, 100% stick with it. I know we in a word of we need now or want now or want to see now, which that's a brand though. If you want results of something now or need people to have opinion that's positive on you now, it's a brand. You know, I went through a phase where I cared more about how people see me for something this or such and such this, to where I try to force something to stay when I don't need to stay because I worried about what people thought. Then I'm like, hell, who cares? It ain't my core. If it ain't telling me don't do it, then I don't do it. Stick to what I know. The rest of it figured itself out, and guess what it did? It figured itself out.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, that's why I use the tree. Like, a tree is deeper below the surface than what you see. Yep. And when you're planting roots, and that means you're anchoring yourself to where you are. And the more you anchor yourself to where you are, when you're trying to move and change and do all that, there's resistance. Yeah. You have to uproot yourself. And I think a lot of people totally underestimate what that trying to adapt to every environment. Like, can you, and we all need, because even, again, to use the analogy with a tree has give. It's not just a
right.
pole.
Right. Wind blow one direction. It's going to float on it.
You can be in different rooms and adapt and sway a little bit, and no one's saying be so rigid that you have no flexibility, because even when a tree is that way, that's one of the ones that fall. It's the ones that have give. If you look where it's windy, where it's all this stuff, those trees can sway. They have a little give, like a building. Mm-hmm. So it's okay. It's not to say that you try to make everything around you fit you. It's just to say that people respect when you're not trying to force them to fit you, but you're not trying to force yourself to fit the environment either. And people respect it a lot because they know how hard it is to stay true to. And a lot of people know they can't stay true to that. Yeah. And so even the ones that can't, they respect those who can.
Right. Yes. Majorly.
So
even if they don't tell the person, you know they respect it.
What any final thoughts on that before we jump to the?
No, just, I mean, figure it out. What if you go through trials, tribulations, troubling times or whatever, to understand your self-identity? Because you have a self-identity. It's just more so how much of it do you have out in the open or have it tucked away?
Can I correct one thing there? In my opinion, people have identities. The question is your identity going to be yours?
Yes. 100%.
Or is it going to be what someone else or others have defined 100%, for you?
Which becomes where you can lead down the wrong path and be in trouble, or whatever the case may be. I've been down paths that I shouldn't have been, just with identity instead of understanding my own self-identity. So get your self-identity and stick to it, because it's 2024. Nobody cares what somebody else think about what you like, what you do. how you do it, as long as you know it's true to you.
Okay. The Olympics, man. What do you?
The best time of the year is the Olympics, and it's when America feels the most proud to be an American. It's the Olympics, and so one, shout out to America. Shout out to us winning all those medals, golds. Even though we tied with China, right? Unfortunately, we tied with China with gold. But overall medal count, nobody touched us. Had a couple mishaps that we could have been outdone China on gold, 4x1 men's, but
Happens
happens
every time.
It happens, but
it happens too much. So
yeah.
I'm just gonna
yeah. So, but I hope everybody enjoyed the Olympics when I did, and I seen a lot of sports, a lot of different sports, a lot of sports that you only see during the Olympics. And so, question is for me to you is, what was your favorite, I guess, moment or sport in the Olympics for this year?
My favorite is it was men's basketball in the semis and the finals.
Okay. Great times.
Great games, being able to see LeBron, Steph, KD
all play
well together, and to gain more respect for players like Devin Booker, who played both sides of the ball.
Role player.
Just could humble himself and get things done, but also was out there. He showed flashes of who he is in the NBA, and he showed flashes of what kind of player he's willing to be to win.
Yeah.
Same for Drew Holiday.
Anthony Edwards, I like this defense.
Oh, I'm a big Ant-Man fan.
I like this defense.
So that was that. It's tough to choose because specifically women's track and field for us were fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. And
showed out.
It was so that I won't say the 4x4, but because they won by so much, it wasn't necessarily like a tight race. But the 4x1,
yeah,
the mix 4x4.
Side note, is that was new this year? Did they have it 4 years ago?
I think it was the second year.
The second time they done it?
I think.
Okay.
And then shout out to Shamir. And really, like, it's not just the winning. Like, I had other friends that were there who wanted to have a little bit more success than they had. But, like, man, it's like you're special to even get there, particularly in track and field.
Yes. And I mean, great job, track and field. Shout out to Shamir. Got to meet her through you, of course. Great person. Was over there playing Uno. Everybody was over there going at it, but great job. I mean, especially women's and all in general. Olympics team, the track was nice to see. The excitement on people, the high jumps, just every part of it, just to see where they get their flag after and put it on their shoulder and run around the track or go to their loved ones. It was just it was fun, and like you said, it'd be nice to have it more than every 4 years. But it was great to see, just in general, especially at a time. I think it couldn't have came at probably a better time for 2024. In the midst of re-election in America, kind of.
That's funny because what I think people lose sight of is an Olympic year is always a general election year.
Yes.
Because the last Olympics was delayed by a year because of COVID, it wasn't in an election year. So it just felt different from a patriotism perspective.
Yes.
But I'm going to just be real. single out a couple of performances, particularly. So,
Go ahead.
first with gymnastics, you know, I was tough. I wasn't tough on Simone Biles, but I wasn't as sympathetic in the last Olympics as some were, because I just think a part of being a great athlete is being able to handle it mentally as well.
Yep.
But she bounced back.
She did.
And, like,
Yes.
I'm not going to be that asshole who's like, no, you need to be mentally tough. So 2020 is on you. And then when you're mentally tough and you make it back and you do all the things and you had all the expectations and you meet them, no, you need to tip your cap to people when they do that too. Don't just be a jerk, or don't just be negative. Lift people up when they meet the mark. And so her and Suni, who had went through
Some different stuff
with her kidneys and stuff, and like you see it, you saw it was real. Like she was definitely facing health issues.
Yes.
And for them to come back and get gold and bronze in the all around.
Yes. Great job. I mean,
Great job.
And like you said, I agree with you. Like, tip your cap when they actually do great. And especially, I mean, to me, I think of gymnastics as a young sport.
Mm.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Simone's maybe 27.
Yeah.
And still doing it. And she'd been in, at least 3 Olympics or so. But, like, they start, I think Team USA had a 16-year-old on there. So think how young you do that. And then 24. I don't even know if there's been anybody that's been 27 and older on there. I don't know. I haven't checked none of that. But to start from when you're that young to still do it at 27, I mean, that's just great within itself. And to be able to flip like you flip, it's just.
She's one of the most explosive athletes of all time.
It's insane.
Like, you can say what you want.
But, I mean, it's there.
Explosive.
It's insane. And to be that explosive, which I get it, other sports people in 27 is in their prime. But for women's gymnastics, they would call that, you would probably consider that on your backside of your career.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because I don't know, because most humans' prime is like, what have I seen? Like 26 to 36 physically.
Yes, physically.
So if you're not 40, quit acting like you are like you are in the prime. Rakeem and I aren't even finishing our prime yet.
Nope.
Like, stop.
I got a lot more coming.
It's not, and that's not to say you're like as much shape as you were in the past. It's just to say if you were working out at like you had been,
you can get in more shape than you was in the past.
Absolutely.
It's just you got to commit.
Yep.
And that's what I'm coming to y'all next with is watch the transaction. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Just watch it.
Okay. The others, Mr. Hawker from the mile relay, from the mile, the 1,500 meter. Kudos, bro.
Good.
Guts.
Good.
Like, are you kidding me, bro?
That's all you gotta say. That's just
Bro.
need to be his nickname. Good.
Guts.
That's all you. That's just name on that.
It, like, he tried to make a move at around, it looked like it was either 250 or 150 to go. Puts his hand out because the guy moves to the inside to cut him off. And I thought, okay, well, he lost speed, all of this stuff, and he shut the inside out, and he's boxed in. But this is where, like, this is where focus matters, because, and I don't know what you're feeling in that type of finish, but he clearly touched him, so he knew somebody was behind him. I'm not saying he knew who it was. He then got focused on what was his competition coming into the race to his outside. And with 80 meters to go, he gave him an opening. And Hawker just, again, shout out, bro. Like,
Good.
totally didn't give up. Like, incredible, insane, all of that. And then Mr. Hall in the 400, man.
What? How many times Mike say he watched that? At least 6 times back to back in the group.
As someone who ran the 400, it doesn't matter if you're in the best shape. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. It doesn't matter. At the end of a 400 race, you're done. You're empty.
You done laid it all on the line.
It's all done.
I did 4x4 meet the champs, Hot Springs, Arkansas. And after I ran it, because we was behind, and I wanted to catch up bad. So I put it all on the line, and I caught up, got us in first. I think I was second leg, because Coach switched the order because he realized how bad I was behind. And I caught up, and I kid you not, for the rest of that race, I was on the ground, tired. Asking people how we do it.
My first 400, I was asked to get out there because someone couldn't go, and I hadn't even practiced it yet. My first 400 was in a actual meet, having never. I mean, we run 400s for training, but never having run a race. Where like 400 is a great race to understand that focus on your race is far more important than chasing someone down.
Yes.
Because if you get out of your technique and you start straining and you use up energy that you thought you were going to finish with, all that, it gets really ugly.
Yeah.
Really ugly.
Yes.
For him, it got ugly.
It did.
It got ugly probably with 120 meters left.
Yes, it did. When they coming around that last turn.
For him to gut that thing out from that far behind, having lost his technique, guts.
Straight
Guts.
He was done. He didn't even do the 4x4 after that, right?
No.
He was done. That you knew that last 100 and how his technique was. Yeah, he done after this race. They shutting him down.
Have y'all ever run like really about to run out of gas, like really on fumes, and you start hearing you just hear your car trying to do everything it can to continue to move? He was like a personification of that. Yes. And it was great to watch.
Yeah, he dug deep. What's that? One of them things you dig deep. I mean, it was kudos to the whole track and field, everybody, women's 4x4, 4x1, everybody. Just great job. It was nice to see. And like I said, any year time, during times like this, that some Americans think, oh, I wish I moved to Italy, or I need to move to England or Canada or wherever. Just make you a time where you are proud to be an American.
This is my thing. This is what, because this is where, all right, let me talk about Noah, because what I was about to say will transition us into kind of the state of the race.
Okay.
Shout out to Noah for the 100-meter race. Won by thousandths of a second. Like,
insane.
Didn't give up. Tip my cap to you too, sir. Because despite what people may think about you, that was a fantastic effort.
It was.
Fantastic
Out
effort.
there in the lane by yourself.
And I'd be
noticing
a hater if I didn't mention you along the with those others, because it was a fantastic race. What wasn't fantastic to me was the 200.
I hated
the
wheelchair.
The wheelchair.
I'm not a fan of that, and that's just me. And you the same as me, but like, if you lost, take your loss. Hold your chin up and take that beating on your chin, just like you delivered the beating on the chin to somebody else when you won 100 and when you was in the press conference. Take it. Don't make excuses. Just take a L.
Take the L.
It's fine. It is completely fine to take a loss. Just know, like, okay, all right, I took that loss. I'll be back. But don't take a loss and drag it out and dramatically and excuses on this. No, that's just not me. And as I raise young boys to be men, you know what I'm saying, 4 boys I do have, I would teach every single one of them that. And I would knock them upside their head if they decide to pull something like that as they want to start getting in sports. Because it's just, I don't believe in it. So anybody that do believe in it, kudos to you, but it ain't for me.
I agree. And particularly when you got that USA on your chest.
Correct.
That's not what we stand for.
No.
If you get beat, you get beat. And yeah, people might talk shit. So what?
Take it.
That's just
that's
the price.
You take it.
That's the price. You can't be running out of the tunnel before the race, running a 200-meter, and then tell me you can't walk 12 meters to the
He
the
at least
tunnel.
ran 100 meters when he ran out the tunnel.
So I just, and then the last thing I'll say about him, because I don't want to make this about him. There's a couple things. A lot of people think that if you don't support somebody, you dislike them. I don't dislike Noah Lyles. I could have very easily just now not moved on after Hawker and Hall and moved on to our next topic.
Correct.
No, he deserves to have his 100-meter effort pointed out if those were pointed out as well.
That's a historic race.
It's historic. It was close. It was guts. He didn't give up.
Lane 7 by himself, running to himself. He did great on that.
But just because someone, I just think he lame. And like, that's just it. I don't dislike you. I don't dislike him. I just think he's lame.
You in the lane. That's funny because you think that about certain people or athletes, and it's hilarious, but it's so true.
Yeah,
and
I don't
you
know.
Don't dislike them or nothing. You just like, to me, you're a lame. Like,
he's a lame because
lame.
I don't like hating that. I don't like haters. I don't like haters.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the comments about Ant-Man and being invited to his shoe reveal and like, oh, he hadn't even been to an NBA final.
Like, that's disrespectful.
Like, hey, bro,
like,
you just made a comment after the World Championships that the NBA Finals champion isn't a world champion.
Correct.
That only when you face the world are you a world champion.
When they have over 60 players, over 60 international players that's currently in the NBA right now, which is more than has ever been in the past.
More than it's ever been. And you can't move the goalposts because as far as I remember, you might remember this, Ant-Man won a gold medal just like you did.
Yes.
In a world competition against the rest of the world, right?
Rest of the world.
So now because he hasn't made it to a NBA Finals, he's not on your level. But you have said before that to be on the level of a world champion, you need to face the world. So when he does face the world now, that don't matter because he got as many gold medals as you?
Yeah.
Nah, man, I don't mess with that.
And then the most recent, and we'll get off of him because I don't feel like I'm just bashing on that because, again, great 100. Tyreek Hill said he didn't like the same what we just said about the 200. Cool. This dude retaliated back, was like, who's that cheetah guy? What's his name? Like, so you telling me which he truly may not, but you telling me you don't know who Tyreek Hill is, but no, he's a cheetah guy.
Yeah, he may not.
That's the best retaliation.
Well, he likes Pokemon. So,
but he
might
you
not
know he the cheetah guy.
be.
I like Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z. I got Pokemon Crocs. But you telling me you know him as a cheetah, but you don't know his real name? Like, that was the best retaliation come back when he's just like, hey, I can beat you. You could have said, okay, let's line up and race.
Yeah, and I know there are Americans out there who don't like his antics, think he talks too much, he's too arrogant. It ain't that for me.
No, be cocky.
I don't care.
But keep that same cockiness when you lose.
Exactly. If you're gonna be that, you gotta remain that.
Yes. That's
And
who you
like-
are. That goes back to identity. If that's your identity, stick to your identity. Don't switch your identity all of a sudden because now you got everybody watching and they see that you done took a L. No, keep that identity. Mm-hmm. Beat your chest and talk your shit. Mm-hmm. Don't switch it now.
I agree. Especially when 200 meters is what you said your real race
Piece
is.
of cake. Easy. He said it was easy work.
So shout out to Botswana. I saw how they welcomed the 200 meter champion back with 50,000, 30,000, whatever.
Yeah. 30,000.
Shout out to every nation, everybody who won a medal. It matters. It is a big deal.
Especially to take home to your home country.
Absolutely.
In the excitement, especially for the ones, I think the women's 100 meter. That was the first for that
from St. Lucia.
Yeah, for that St. Lucia.
She's been a beast at Texas for a while.
And so it's just amazing because you don't understand. A lot of these countries is not like America where they got the basketball and the footballs and all this that's going on where you got multiple champions and all that. A lot of these countries is getting their first gold medal
ever in any sport.
In any sport, and it's just they celebrating, which is great to see because celebrate your people.
Yep.
That a lot of Americans take for granted sometimes because it is so many people that's doing great or getting gold medals or getting championships or whatever, to where we tend to want to hate our people instead of actually celebrating them.
Yeah, there's two things this will transition us into the state of the race. Shout out to Brittany Griner.
Okay.
I was very tough on privately, but I didn't like the public pressure on the administration to get her and all that. But I also understand that if I was in that situation, that's what I might be doing as well. But shout out to the moment of helping deliver a gold medal and being on that podium and hearing the national anthem play and being overwhelmed, knowing, as she said after the game, getting chills, that my country fought to get me.
Yes.
And that this one is different. Mm-hmm. When I know that my and obviously she knows everybody.
Because she got other ones, right? She got other goals.
This is her third or fourth.
Right. So
like for her, she knows everybody wasn't in her corner, but just to be able to say, no, my country as a whole wanted me back and fought for me and to see that emotion coming, and she's flashing back to those moments in Russia where she probably didn't know when she would be back and all of these different things,
eating bad food and everything.
And to be back and able to play and help win, huge.
Yes.
Huge.
To be able to be able to get out of Russia to come back to the States, to your wife, your friends, family, but then to be able to get back to that level of basketball, and then from there to be able to go to the highest level of basketball for women's basketball, which is or one of the highest levels, which is play for your country and the gold medal in another country, and to win it and say thank you to the country. Like, I mean, you might as well write a book about it.
I'm telling you. And the other is shout out to the USA men's national team from a basketball perspective, and specifically shout out to Joel Embiid.
All the backlash from Perry.
Joel is basically a citizen in three places. Whether that be I think it's Cameroon, and then France, and then the United States of America.
Yep.
Look, if you qualify to play for America and you want to play for America and you desire to be someone that helps us get gold, and you're going to get treated like you're a traitor to these other countries and all that stuff,
and not get as many minutes sometimes due to all the stars that's playing for America,
and to see how the rest of the team was like, no, he got USA on his chest.
Yeah.
No, he's with us.
Yeah.
He's with us. He's representing the country. He's draping himself in the flag.
And the excitement that he had.
Oh, absolutely.
He wanted it. The excitement being on the bench when Curry was going crazy.
Yeah.
He thought he was a little kid running up and down that sideline. Like, he first time ever seen Steph play.
And given his injury history, it's not riskless to be playing. So.
Well, shout out to the owners for allowing them, some of the more injury risk people, to be able to play. I know they was probably sitting there like, please don't get, or whatever the case may be.
After the Paul George situation is difficult.
Right.
But yeah, shout out to Joel and his desire. I don't care if y'all think he just did that to get a gold. I don't believe that.
No, I think he truly had loved being in the United States and having a love for our country.
And he's been here for how long? I mean,
a while now, to where pretty much this is his country just as much as if it's ours. And he want to play for him. He want to go defend it. I mean, he could have easily teamed up with France and with Wemby. And
shout out to Wemby.
What's the other one? Goldberg, right?
We don't talk about him on this podcast.
But I was just saying, they could have had 3 bigs. And if I'm the coach, hey, look, all 3 of y'all playing at the same time, who gonna stop it? Now, it'd be a little more difficult than that, but but still though, just the beauty of that. And so, side note, shout out to your barber. Well, that line crispy as all get out over there, boy.
Shout out, hey, no.
Hey, listen, my barber Beth, I gotta make sure we time ours up for when I record fresh line like him, cause my man fresh line. So we gotta switch my schedule up.
I literally got.
You gotta switch my schedule to where when I'm recording, hit me up and I'm on the highway. So
yeah, I did literally got it cut a few hours ago. So
but shout out to my barber too though, cause she do keep me right.
Shout out Beth. Hey Beth.
But yeah, man.
So the state of the race. What do you want to say? Last time we talked, it was the night of the debate.
And a lot has happened. And just to run down real quick a few things that happened. Biden stepped down. Harris is being endorsed by a lot of the Democratic Party and got a tremendous amount of money.
Trump was shot.
Trump picked the vice president. Harris picked the vice president, which is the governor for Minnesota, which is voted the best place to live in Minneapolis. So shout out to my cousin Ebony for living there.
Hey, Ebony.
But a lot has happened. And so one, I guess
J.D. Vance called out childless people, which I'm a childless person. So
let's go there. Let's go right there, because he used to throw shots at Trump. And so the question is, who is he? Such as, not who is he, but like, you just took that because to get you in that position, but you truly still don't like the person that you was throwing all the shots at when you was trying to run against him and outbeat him.
So I'll answer it a couple ways. I don't think as a politician changing is a big deal. Things change, particularly on like economics and just as the country changes, then you just because you had a position 20 years ago doesn't mean that you are a hypocrite because that position changes later. Like, so I'm not one of those people.
Okay.
Where J.D. Vance is different in my mind is when you're number one, a lot of the comments we're talking about was in 2022. We're not talking about 20 years ago.
Correct.
We're talking about
recent.
Very recent. That's number one. That's important. Number two, when you're talking about someone's character, that's not a policy issue that may be different now that the country is different later. When you're talking about who a person is, like he did Trump, that's not the same as Trump or Kamala Harris changing a policy position as the world and the conditions change.
Okay.
We need to examine that when people do that, and it's not. It seems like you're trying to play to the crowd.
Okay.
But part of being in politics is to be responsive to what the people that sent you there believe, not just your own personal beliefs.
Right.
That's where I have a problem with J.D. Vance. he was speaking to who Trump was, who he is as a
truly
person,
believe,
all
yeah.
of this stuff. And so evolution on that is not something I buy.
Do you think politics has become more of that? More so, let's bash the other party or they running mate instead of actually talking about what you actually plan to do.
Yeah.
Or
us
as people,
yeah,
us as a country, it seems like it's just more so like, oh, that person, yada, yada, yada. Oh, that person, yada, yada, this. Or that. Okay, we understand you're talking about that person, but like, what do you plan on doing?
Mm-hmm. I think that's why since Joe Biden has exited the race, it's gotten so much tighter in swing states. Because swing states, hence being a swing state, they want to know what you're going to do for them.
Correct.
You don't just get... It's not like us in Arkansas where we may vote Democrat, but we know at the end of the day they're not going to win Arkansas.
Correct.
So you can have all these
Republican all day.
You can do all this other stuff all you want, but in a swing state, when you know how much more decisive at least or determinative your vote is, you can be like, well, no, what are you going to do for me?
Correct.
And I think part of the reason why the gap is closed is because Biden and now Kamala Harris and Governor Walz, and just yesterday in North Carolina, she rolled out pieces of an economic plan. I'm sure it's certainly not comprehensive, but it tackles cost, it tackles price gouging, it tackles the hurdle right now to buying a house, particularly from a down payment perspective. Like it's something. Like yes. you can determine whether do I like this
or not, but
do I not like this?
But you have something that you can determine. Okay, this is what they believe in, or this is what they plan on doing.
Right.
Instead of just, oh yeah, let's just talk about
crowd sizes and
or Trump in all his cases or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Tell me what you plan to do.
Exactly. And so when you combine that from a Harris-Walz perspective of now rolling out policies, because I was a little annoyed. People were like, oh, is she going to sit down for an interview? Is she going to do this? And it's like, she's only been the nominee for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid she prioritize voters over the media.
Yes.
God forbid.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good. No, you're prioritizing campaigning and getting out there and touching people so that you can show who you are in this later stage. And you're not prioritizing big interviews and all that stuff. You'll get there. You'll do it, but it's not top of mind.
Got you.
When you couple all of that with the fact that she's been a part of this administration who, for particularly impacting swing states like Ohio, like Illinois, like North Carolina, Minnesota, others, Pennsylvania. This administration, through the Inflation Reduction Act, through the CHIPS Act, all of that, they've made long-term investments already in these communities. And so now I think it's important as well to let people know, like, hey, you remember what we did 2 years ago and how much, and we said it would take some time for implementation. That's what you're going to see first. And this is my plan to build on top of that. I'm not just going year to year. We've made some decade-long investments as in the Biden-Harris administration, bipartisanly with Congress as well, that is already beginning to get to these communities. And what I'm telling you is what we're going to do in addition to that.
Okay.
On the other side, there's not the only policy that I can remember from the administration, and this is their fault. And I'm not saying that this is all they have.
Okay.
But all that I can remember is a 10% tariff on imports, which is effectively a tax on all of us.
Yes.
And mass deportation of millions of
People.
Illegal immigrants.
Illegals going back.
Whatever. You're not illegal until it's adjudicated. But
so, while you on it, real quick, what would you say for somebody that's coming or getting into politics, not a Republican, not a Democrat, and say, well, Harris, what has she done as vice president? There's not a lot out there versus what has Trump done previous term in president. What would you, or how would you even explain? So, for instance, like people trying to say, like Harris, oh, she ain't did nothing as the vice president. How's she gonna do anything as president? Mm-hmm. Well, Trump done XYZ as president. You know, one, what's the XYZ? As you was explaining.
Yeah. What I would say is that may seem like a fair question, but it's really not. The vice president is one of the most powerless positions in the entire United States.
Thank you.
And it was designed to be that way.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Because of course you don't want someone next in line that has power.
Correct.
Because they may use that power to become first.
Yes. Thank you.
So a vice president has virtually no powers other than tie breaking in the Senate. Everything else is like about being almost being like a senior advisor, consulting on things, being able to be out there, being a surrogate for the administration, and frankly, just remaining prepared in the event that they have to assume duties. What I would say is, from the presidency perspective, most of your impact is in a foreign policy sense. You do have to work with Congress to get your agenda through. So I'm not saying there's not domestic components.
Okay.
There definitely is. But Harris has also represented us on an international stage multiple times. And ultimately, it's about what she's going to do moving forward.
Yep. People trying to look, but that's the thing where people, me talking to a couple colleagues and stuff, is just more so they seeing it as, well, what has she done as when she was vice president? And then what Trump done this, and I know inflation wasn't this much, and we had all this and that, but like, okay, what's the plan though?
And we broke it down, right?
100%.
It's easy to say, well, gas was $1.80 when I was president, Trump, and that could be factually correct, and there were moments where it got down low, but it was because we were all locked up in the house,
correct,
and people weren't buying gas.
Must spend as much.
So the price of gas plummeted. I know because I made a ton of money off of buying it when it was low.
Yep. And that's,
I mean, my down payment on this house we're in is because of money I made off of leveraged oil
that was low
stock. So yes, it was $1.80, but guess what? Nobody was driving, no one was flying, so you had a glut of supply and no demand.
Yes,
so yes, yes,
right.
We had cheap gasoline for all the wrong reasons.
And exactly. So if you telling people, which is, I mean, if we talking to people, and would you be like more so, hey, look at what they're trying to do versus what you trying to see what they already done? You know, that's when people could look at all this.
It's a good question. I typically would, my approach is like, if that's where you're anchored in your thinking, then I would rather try to be persuasive with someone who isn't anchored there.
Okay.
Like, if that's how you want to gauge this thing, then that I won't say it's fine, but like, I'm not going to spend time. I won't even say waste time. I'm not going to spend time trying to convince you that where we are today is not better than where we were, where we lost 1 million Americans in 20 months. I'm never going to be okay with that level of death
Right.
and carnage.
Right.
Businesses going under.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was not a great time for me just because I was saving money.
Saving money or getting free money.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get any of that.
I didn't either, but some people
wish.
did though. So that's why I thought
I didn't even get I didn't get even child tax credits. I don't have children. I didn't get rent moratoriums. I didn't have federal rent. I didn't get student loan moratoriums. I don't have federal student loans. I didn't get any of that.
No.
But I'm okay that other people did. But as we've said before, just because you were getting things in order to make sure that things weren't worse than they already are doesn't mean that everything was great. It wasn't. Yep. We weren't respected around the world. Like, just because he says that now doesn't make it true. And yeah, and look, I gotta talk about the whole JD Vance thing around his comments that
was gonna be
people with kids.
Next. Yes, go ahead.
People with kids should have more votes than those that don't. Or that people with kids should be able to kids should have a vote and their parents should be able to cast it. Or that, like, not having kids means you're basically less invested in America. And look, it's one of those things where the amount of people that I know who don't have kids that want them, like, how dare you?
Right.
The amount of people that I know who spent years trying to have kids.
Yes.
So, like, who do you think you are? And the amount of people that have kids that didn't want to have kids, so they're the ones that should have more to say, even though they accidentally had a kid. And like, listen, who do you think you are?
As a parent of kids, like, what justifies me going to go cast votes for my kids who don't know nothing about politics or anything? Just because I can get a couple more votes to sway my way. So now what we going to have campaigns where they targeting, oh, this is parents only campaign? Who are they going to target where only parents can come to this?
And for people who hadn't seen the video, who thought, oh, you saw the quote and like, oh, he might have been joking, or oh, he might have been saying, watch the video. He's dead serious. He's dead serious. And those are the things where you're like, bro, you're out of touch. There are people that people don't know had problems having kids who heard that and was like,
really? Yeah.
Okay.
I don't understand his angle of that at all. As a Republican or a Democrat, I don't see where he was. I don't understand what he was trying to accomplish from that. And then on top of that, you talking about you saying something that you know won't even. You got to go through a whole long laundry list of getting approvals for that even to happen. You can't just say something. Oh yeah, somebody gonna just throw it in motion. Like, you basically just said something for the fun of saying something without even.
I think he believes that. Whether it can be done doesn't change the fact that if it could be,
right,
he would be in favor.
Yeah.
And the other one I wanted to talk to you about is like the whole Kamala Harris turned black. She was Indian and then she turned black.
Listen, people. That's kind of like what people try to say when the Obama took off, and it was like, oh, he just half. So now that's when we can tally that somebody's half or not, or
yeah, there are a group of people in this country who, and it ain't the black people, who if and only if you're of a certain success will we claim our part of you. You're black if you're not a somebody.
Yeah.
But if you are somebody, we want whatever percentage now that of you that is with us genetically.
Yeah.
We want our claim. Well, that's not how it's ever worked in this country. We know brown bag tests. We know 1/8, 1/6. We know
all shades.
know.
All shades. And that's what's so funny is like, okay.
If you got a white daddy, you're black. To protect landowners and slave owners.
And that's the thing. So like,
these are real things. This isn't me being an
no.
These are real.
No, for sure. And that's the thing I got. Is like, where was that when she was vice president?
She black. She went to Howard.
You know what I'm saying? But that's
She's
the thing,
an
though.
AKA.
Like,
she
so
ain't never acted any other like.
So
I didn't even know she was Indian until like 5-6 years ago.
Well,
Indian and Jamaican is her heritage.
Right, but like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, let's be fair. A lot of blacks do have Indian in them. My grandma had.
Well, I mean Indian, not like
okay.
Indigenous.
But I mean, like, but still though, like,
it doesn't matter. She's Kamala Harris. We're beyond this point of turn black is just like a.
But that's the thing.
Ridiculous phrase to even utter.
It's just somebody that wanted to look for something to say. Oh wait, she's not even okay. Cool.
They're trying to remind the electorate that she's black. When they mispronounce her name, they're trying to remind. It's just like, in the 90s when you would have a Lucretia or something, and you're making fun of how hard her name is, or you remember back in the day they used to scare parents into, well, when you think about your kid's name on a resume, you don't want people to think it's those dog whistles of, is it Kamala? Is it Kamala? Is it Kamala? Is it da-da-da-da? You're trying to do the whole
Kamala?
You're trying to do the whole she's black and she's black as hell thing. And how hard is it to say someone's name right? She was a city prosecutor in one of the largest cities. She was an attorney general of the largest state. She was a United States senator. She was vice president and the first woman to be vice president.
Correct.
And she is the first African American female nominee in the history of this country. Do not tell me you don't know how to say Kamala Harris.
It's not that they don't know how to say Kamala Harris. It's the fact they don't want to say Kamala Harris.
Well, you're gonna have to get used to it if you keep it up.
I mean,
they're gonna
my
keep
name's
it up.
Rakeem, but how many people would like to say that?
I don't get it. I'll be honest with you, and I'll tell you another thing. I just think they're running a bad play right now, and they can keep running it.
Well, that's the thing, though, and it goes back to what I was saying is like, okay, so what are we getting from that play? Tell me what you gonna do. I don't care.
But if you don't know what you're gonna do,
so whatever. Tell me what you gonna do.
But if you don't have any, if you really don't have, he was ready to run on Joe Biden being too old, no energy,
100%.
all of this stuff, because he wasn't even prepared against Biden to battle with policies, because Biden has you can say a lot of things about him, but we've had bipartisan long-term investments. We've had increases in manufacturing. We've had increased energy production and exports.
Yes.
We've had increased military manufacturing orders.
Yes.
We've had all of these things. We've had semiconductor and chip onshoring and investment.
Yep.
We've done all of these things.
And so when you don't have a plan or a play.
Well, no. When you're running against a guy with a record like that.
Yes.
And you're preparing to run against him, you're not going to try to make a policy.
You're just going to
because if you put his 4 years against his 4 years from a policy perspective, you're not winning that.
And
so that's what he had set himself up to have a campaign that was driven about talking about Biden and what he isn't. And then when Kamala's in, she's got the benefit of the Biden-Harris achievements.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say she's old and doesn't have energy
but
either.
they switched to now that I have heard. I haven't checked fact it, but they switched to now. Oh, she don't like her people because she locked so many up when she was in Cali.
I told you I have some issues with her time as Attorney General as it relates to a couple of capital cases, and then also kind of how certain drug-related offenses were treated. I am not going to say that she hates black people because she did her job as she saw it. I don't have to like some of the things she did, but that doesn't mean I believe that she did it because she hates us.
Correct.
And frankly, I don't really need people that ain't us to be telling us that she hates us.
Yeah.
I don't feel that.
But that's what. But
so
that's
you as a non-black person can't tell black people what another black person that she hates us.
But that's the thing is
who are you?
What they was attacking Biden for? Cool. Okay. Oh, whatever the case may be. Well, he stepped down. Cool. Now you can't attack her for that. So the two attacks I've been seeing a lot is, oh, she don't know anything. But then my argument with that was like, okay, when Trump ran for president the first time, did he know anything?
Does he know anything now? the man just said yesterday that 100% of net new jobs have went to immigrants, and then he said, no, it's more than 100%. As if more than 100% is even a thing. So when we're talking about what somebody doesn't know,
if you're talking about jobs,
which that's not even close to true, by the way,
nowhere near. But if let's just for say instance, 100% jobs went to immigrants. Well, us in America who don't want to work those factories anymore, and that we talked about, they don't want those jobs. And there's jobs out there to be given.
There's a lot of open roles out there right now.
Open roles, but everybody want to be doing totally something else, whatever, fine. If that's your identity, cool. But those jobs got to be taken. That's how we keep production, fruit, metal, cars being made, houses being built, wood being, every single thing. Look around your house and you look at every single thing in there and tell me there's a place it was built at, in a warehouse, in a factory, and it had to also get to you, which is a transportation shortage that we already have as well.
And he wants to tax anything that comes in this country at 10%. Just full stop, everything.
If he taxed anything that come in the country 10%, y'all ready for more inflation? Because these businesses who got to bring stuff in for their warehouses or for their goods to ship to you or whatever, they getting taxed 10%. Well, they got to make that back somehow. So it used to be $9.99. Let's raise it to $12.99. So, hey. But that is the things that they're saying on Harris is don't know anything or whatever. It's the first time. I'm sitting here like, okay, like, all right. I mean, it's most presidents, yes, they don't have military background, but criminal justice background, a whole lot of stuff for the state. And everybody voted for Trump for the first time as he just went from some movies and hotels and real estate. But
never done anything in politics.
I get it. Last thing will be I guess we didn't get on Biden dropping out fully in details, but was it a good decision for him to go ahead and drop out? I think personally, if that was if we're not even talking politics, but if that was my grandpa, I know you have a better good because you have a long term that you explained to me, as in where you want to see this country, especially knowing that you got grandkids or whatever. But as me seeing my grandpa, I would want you to be able to enjoy your last few years with your feet kicked up in your beach house, knowing that you did XYZ and when you didn't have to.
Yeah. I was okay with it either way. Where I was disappointed is that this is how he ends, because the same people that pressured him to get out of the race, I'm almost certain had the opportunity to stop him from running for re-election on the front end. And so if they didn't do that, let him go through this entire process and then say, no, get out, then I understand why he's upset about that. And I don't fault him for feeling some type of way if the opportunity to say, no, we don't want you to run was there before he declared he was running. And then the public not pointing that out is something that I think is important, or I understand. As it relates to improving the chances of winning, it feels like that right now, but obviously things can change in 80 days. So I hope it improved the chances. I just think, we got to be honest that there are certain things that people are apprehensive about, and we just don't know how people are going to react, again, to a woman, a black woman. We don't know.
Correct.
And so people can even say they will do something, and then ultimately when they go in the booth, they're like, I don't know.
I don't know about that, yeah.
So we'll see, but I don't think if you think that's the right move, you don't not make it because she's black and a woman. If you think she gives you a better chance and you want to pull the trigger, then pull the trigger. I'm just more speaking not on the intent of the decision, but what others will do when it comes down to voting. I don't know.
And so, last thing I got is the survival of the assassination. Fist in the air behind the flag. Which those photos probably will go down in the museum, unfortunately, but it will. Was that factor, I guess, maybe also into the Biden stepping down? And also, did you look at that when you seen that photo? It was like, man, that's kind of unbeatable. And
I know
as in America people, looking at.
Yeah, I know some people who felt that way. I didn't. I don't think that was a factor in Biden stepping down. I think my thought was, so you had the NATO summit that week, and I didn't think he would step down before the NATO summit. There were things that we wanted to secure on behalf of Ukraine, who's taking land within Russia right now. Shout out to the Kursk offensive. Continue to do what you need to do. Like we said in our last episode, I hope the gloves get taken off. It seems like they're being taken off. But that summit needed to be completed in Washington first. It was completed like on a Thursday, Friday, and then Trump was shot on a Saturday. Week goes by, another week goes by, and then he steps down. I thought they were either going to announce that he was stepping down before the Republican National Convention or right after, to stop any momentum that may have been established.
Got you.
So either you want to steal the headlines going in so the RNC is less of a focus, or you want to do it immediately after, so as they build momentum, now the story is about you and what you're doing.
Got you.
Because he was shot, I think they held off on announcing that going into the RNC because he was a sympathetic figure and someone did try to take his life. But then they announced it right after.
Right after.
And ever since, very little's been about him.
Right.
And so I think that's what it was, more than him stepping down because he was shot. I personally think they were leaning towards stepping down and just wanted to make sure that it was done in the right way that maximized their level of momentum that could be generated, because that Democratic National convention, which begins this week, was not going to be immediately after the RNC because of the Olympics.
Gotcha.
So you had those 2 weeks in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah.
And so you stop momentum, change the story. Harris is the story. A week goes by. You pick Tim Walz, then the Olympics. USA kills it. Week off. Campaign. Unroll some policy stuff. And then get ready for the convention Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's the thing is the hardest thing is for people to get their view, their opinion, or the facts outside of social media when there's such a big social media world. There can be so many fake stories, and that's what I think will be a problem when it comes to the ultimate decision of who becomes the next president. Is going to be more so who probably took the social media storm by surprise due to.
I hear Harris is doing well on TikTok, but I'm not on X or TikTok anymore.
I haven't been on TikTok neither. I don't have it neither, but I have to ask. I don't know if Chelsea's on it or not, but I'll find out.
Hey, Chelsea.
To see, but that's why I think will be a problem a little bit. For the most part, it's just we know Trump's a social media guy. We know he can target his social media people. We know there's stories that can be swayed either way on social media. The people maybe have a profile picture with them with the flag behind them or whatever, and people look at it as in like, now I guess we can end on this too. Do you think he truly cares for America the way he showed that he do by still running for his age, still running after being shot, along with the picture or whatever the case may be?
Stopped mentioning this picture. Like, he's running to stay out. He began running to stay out.
Why is he running? Let's just end on that. Why do you think he's running for that age?
Because of the trappings of it. Like, number one, it's very difficult. Like, once you're the most important man in the world, you get a little taste of that, especially if you're a narcissist. It's hard to give it up. That's what makes what Biden did. A lot of people, probably including myself, I'd have crashed out. Hey, I'm nominated. Take it. I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere. Biden, it took time,
right?
But he got out of the way.
Okay.
That takes a level of humility, despite the fact that you had to be pushed out. Everybody knows he didn't have to.
No, at all. He didn't have to at all.
He could have rolled it to the ground and said, "We're gonna win or lose by me." And
kept going.
Sorry, you should have said something 18 months ago.
Right.
He didn't do that. There is to your point, and this is my final comment. To your point around what are you asking a candidate, what are you doing for me, for us? If he was really in it for non-selfish reasons, he wouldn't be mounting a campaign in the way that he has, in which he virtually has told you nothing new that he would do. He just has talked about, he's lied about it, but he's talked about the past and all the great things. Greatest economy ever. I was the greatest president since Lincoln, maybe better than Lincoln. My crowds are bigger than Martin Luther King. We'd had no unemployment. Gas was as cheap as it's ever been. We produce more oil than we've ever produced. We've done all that. It's all lie. It's not true. And even if it were true, it's not speaking about the future.
Correct. You still speaking.
He has yet to mention the Senate or the House. It's like he don't even care if the Republicans win the House or the Senate. No. He has mentioned no one. I don't know if there's been a single candidate in a toss-up race who's campaigned with him. You basically don't even think, and I believe in a healthy two-party system. I
Correct.
don't want there is
you don't want
nothing
full
wrong
control.
with Republicans.
Yeah, you don't want no full control. You can't have it.
No.
They don't make America, as in.
Yeah, I have no problem with conservatism. I've said before, I have no problem with what historically it's meant to be a Republican. Zero, none. It's like the Republican Party doesn't exist.
Yes. So it's
and
for
it's
power.
wild.
And for people who don't understand or don't know narcissists, look it up, study it a little bit.
Let me tell you.
Then come tell me.
Let me tell you the story of Narcissus. Because I was a sports captain, but I also was a quiz bowl captain too. And Greek mythology was one of my subjects. Narcissus was, as the story goes, considered one of the most handsome men in the world. He was, and I'm probably totally butchering this, but he was walking along a creek or water, river, or whatever, and it was crystal clear, and he turned and looked at it, and he saw his reflection for the first time. And because he was the most handsome man in the world and he saw his reflection, he fell in love with himself when he saw his reflection. And as the story goes, he saw his reflection and wanted to get closer and was falling in love with himself. So he went into the creek and he drowned. He died. Mm-hmm. He died because he was trying to get his reflection. And that's where you hear, that's where a narcissist or narcissistic, it comes from that Greek story, and I'm sure it's been told in Roman mythology and other mythologies as well. But it's used as a way to show like how narcissists came to be, someone who's self-absorbed, absorbed with himself, and absorbed to the degree that they would risk their own self because of how in love with themselves they are. Yeah. And that's Donald.
Yes. Even at that age.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. If you're a narcissist in your 70s, you're going to die.
You're going to die. If you want in your 50s, you're going to do it. At 40s, even 40s. It's once you get to a certain age, you're stuck in your ways. So,
yep. And
that's just what it is. So,
all right. Well, again, shout out to America. Like, y'all, let's just be engaged coming up as we get ready for early voting in the next 30 days or so.
And look at your beliefs, what you believe in, instead of looking at what's either been done or was done. Look at what's trying to be done.
Yep.
Future.
Elections are about the future. They're not about the past. And pay attention to more than just the presidential election. Make sure if there are ballot issues that are coming up in the state, mm-hmm. you understand what those are. Mm-hmm. If you have a representative or a school board or whatever coming up, it matters. Like all of that stuff matters. So
pay attention. Hey, I'm getting on my school's PTA for my kids, so pay attention.
Before we get out of here, he was going to try and get out of here. I want to, man, highlight the work you did with the back to school giveaway that you had in Fort Smith for the kids. Tell us a little bit about it. I know.
Man, so this is my 5th year, which you know it, but 5th year doing back to school supply backpack drive. First year of doing shoes, which I partnered with my church, Pastor Flake, great pastor, he a noob too, shout out to him. And we wanted to bring something different, so we decided let's do not only the backpacks for every kid, but also new shoes. And when I say, and we was able to use the Boys and Girls Club, Jeffrey's Boys and Girls Club, they got renovated. They got the big Jalen Williams right there on the entryway. Great Boys and Girls Club. Shout out to the Boys and Girls Club for allowing us to use it. But the amount of volunteers we had through the community and the amount of people, we had over 500 people in there, along with giving over 400 backpacks and shoes to infants all the way up to high schoolers.
Great stuff.
Freshly new. We had over probably 300 pair of Nike Kyries, like multiple different colors. Tim Garlow was another great person who was over the shoe part as well. And they was in there sizing them, make sure they actually fit a particular, and then boom, go pull it off. And you go try these on. You like those? Took the time with them. You know what I'm saying? Supplies in the backpack, newer backpacks, had a lot of water bottles in backpacks. And it was just nice. Everybody, the kids was excited. Parents was grateful. Had food for them, drinks, was able to play. But it's just a beauty, especially a community or a neighborhood you come from and able to give back instead of just taking from a neighborhood, actually invest back into the neighborhood. It was actually nice to see. So really nice, really fun. Appreciate everybody that helped, came, volunteered. Appreciate everybody that said good job. I got a lot of messages from people, including you and stuff, that just say, hey, man, you don't speak on it enough, and I know sometimes I don't really look for the recognition of it. It's okay. Just line it up and like to do it, to see the smiles on kids' faces as they come through there or something. If I gave it to one kid one pair of shoes in a backpack or whatever, however many, but as long as I can impact one, so he going to school ready to tackle that school year, it's real nice.
Yeah, it was fantastic work. You stuck with it, like you said, for many years. I remember how it began, and then seeing how y'all had everything in the Boys and Girls Club this year is just wild to see what year 5 looked like.
Yeah, year 5, and this was insane. It's just like, who would know? Like, you keep doing it, but for 5 years, but like, the growth of it, it's like, man.
Well, you're a good dude.
So,
Are you kidding?
Community gonna be coming out next year, expecting something even bigger. I'm gonna be sitting there like, hold up now.
Yeah.
But it was great, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Now, do y'all take donations through the year?
We take donations through the year too. Where also what we also doing or did, if you know anybody in need, I even sent some off to Oklahoma to family in Oklahoma. Is just we have more. We got probably about 100 new pair of shoes still left. And we got it in the storage, climate control storage, and we take donations throughout the year, whether if it's backpacks, shoes, or clothes for families whose house may burn down throughout the year, or or anything to where I can help, possibly help, or even a kid. If I even told some schools, hey, if a kid come and they shoes mess up at school or something, hey, if I got a size, I'll bring them and drop them off.
Yeah,
or whatever the case may be.
So we'll look at trying to put the information if you want to help donate or QR code or something. But yeah, let's keep supporting those community-based efforts that are totally genuine and not hugely marketed and all this stuff. Fantastic work, and you're touching a lot of people.
Strictly for the community. It ain't a dime that go into my pocket. Not 0 cents. If anything, a little coming out, but it's strictly for the community. Nothing that I gain from it besides just, hey, it's our future. Next gen is our next generation that's coming up. And if they can remember the little small thing, like I remember when I got that from that person, he talked to me for 5 minutes or mentored me for a year or something. Well, that person may be something bigger than me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the episode for this week. There's more to come, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.